Hi guys, welcome to the video. We're going to do a little couple of videos about the social impact of IT. This is for Level 2 Unit 1, the P6 criteria, and later we're going to address the merit criteria, which is M2. However, in this first initial video, we're going to start by looking at P6. So, the learning outcomes we're going to cover in this video, so we're going to identify ways in which IT is impacted on predominantly individuals and groups. We're going to look at workplaces in a later video, and also think about the impact that this has had on those individuals and groups. I think something to bear in mind when you are talking about the social impact of IT is that this is a really, really massive area. You are going to struggle to cover absolutely everything. I'd say it's nearly impossible to cover absolutely everything that is impacted by IT in society, either for individuals, communities, or for workplaces. It's something that you could probably write 10,000 pages about if you wanted to. Now, obviously, for a Level 2 task, or even at Level 3 if you're using it, because it would be a unit within the Level 3 courses. If you are using it for these, then I would check out the key things that your tutor is looking for you to cover, and then try and find examples of those and back them up with evidence. Don't just say, oh, IT is amazing, it must have absolutely no negative consequences, because that simply isn't true. However, there will be key things to consider. So, for example, for us, we're looking at things like legal issues, we're looking at the ethical impacts of IT, we're looking at the economic impact, and we're looking at communications. Threats we'll look at slightly later. And if you've been looking earlier in the unit about threats for you when you use IT, those will be covered by it, but there are other things as well that we haven't covered and need to cover, really. When we're actually looking at this stuff, if you're kind of finding examples of some of it, so for example, when I'm going to go on to the next few slides, I'll give you some actual examples of where this happens. You're naturally going to cover this stuff. You could, I guess, split your piece of work into something that covers all of these bullet points, but actually if you kind of follow it through in terms of look at positives for individuals and groups, and then we're going to look at positives for workplaces, and then do threats for individuals and threats for workplaces, you should cover all of this stuff. And I would pick out, you don't need to pick out every single one of these items that's going to follow, but if you pick out a handful of them, then you should be okay. And you should have covered all of them. So first of all, let's look at some of these positives. So first of all, we're looking at access to shops and services. So for example, people can get the orders online, and they can have things ordered to their house. So where we say shops and services, this forms part of e-commerce, okay, and e-commerce is buying and selling stuff online, but also it's providing services online. So you don't actually have to sell something to be an e-commerce site. But in this kind of particular example, I've obviously got Amazon and Deliveroo, and I'm sure you can think of many others out there that will provide home delivery. Then, these things are a big plus currently, because there are people who may have, for example, mobility issues, or for whatever reason may not be able to go to the supermarket and do that comes the big shop where you buy everything for the week. They may not be able to do, for example, they may not have a car. They can order stuff online and get it delivered to the house. One of the other big advantages of IT is that the range of stuff, I say stuff, shops, services, items, whatever it might be, is just so much more varied right now, and specialized than what you've had previously. So for example, you can order very specific things from all over the world and get it delivered to your house, whatever that might be. So for example, it could be a specific type of food, or it might be a car part, whatever it might be. You can order it from anywhere around the world and get it delivered to your house, which is obviously a massive positive. When we're looking at these positives, you may be thinking, but, okay, now pretty much everything has an but to it, and we'll look at threats and negatives in a future video. For now, we're just solely concentrating on positives. We've got communication has widened, so this is a really big thing from the last few years. Okay, things like social media has exploded really in the last 5 years. Everybody that I know pretty much has a social media presence of some sort. Certainly most celebrities do. You've got things like the internet is getting quicker and quicker. Everyone's got a mobile device. So what happens then is everyone is available all the time, and they're expected to be available all the time. Whether or not that is an overall good thing, we will think about that in the future video. So another impact of that is companies are also on these devices, on these types of social media. So for example, on Facebook, most companies are there. Most companies have a Twitter handle, and what is expected to happen then is if you have an issue, you tweet or message them, and you expect that message back within the hour, really. In the past, you would write them a letter or maybe ring them up, and you wouldn't get that back for some time. But these days, if a company is slow at responding, then they get quite a negative reputation quite quickly. From a company's point of view, also I guess from individuals, because there are people that work on their own, you're able to promote your stuff to the entire world. And anyone can set up a website these days and sell whatever it is they're selling, or promote their service to the entire world. And there are a number of different examples of people that have done something online and it's gone viral, or YouTubers, I suppose you could say. It's ironic, as obviously this video is going on YouTube, but it's not really designed to go viral, to be honest. If it did, then great, but whatever. Also, it does things like eliminate barriers such as time and distance. So obviously, people, especially in the big companies, could have offices all the way around the world. When I was working in a previous education institution, they were next to a Microsoft office, and obviously Microsoft is huge, so they would have these conferences whereby you'd have people in Slough, you've had people in Sydney and New York, and they'd all be in the same conference thanks to IT, basically, things like Skype. Skype's not the only one, but there are other examples out there. But in the past, this would have been different. You'd have had to go on a plane to these places because it would have been physically impossible to actually meet them or talk to them otherwise. Or maybe you could have rung them, but it's not quite the same. You generally with these, you need to be able to see what's going on. Improved automation. So what we mean by that is where you have IT tools, they will do a lot of the stuff for you. Okay. So let's say one of the big things about Office is that it helps the end user out quite a lot. So let's say, for example, something as basic as the spell checker, that's all automated. Okay, something such as inserts the table of contents for you. Obviously you need to set that up, but that does save quite a lot of work once you actually get your head around how to do this. It will create a cover page for you. What I haven't got in there are things such as the Office suite is quite easy to link them together, so you can create something in Excel and import it into Word relatively easily. And so this is the main reason, or one of the main reasons why it is so popular, because it is so easy to use. You've also got ability to work flexibly, so there's a lot of examples these days where companies will put all their stuff on a cloud basis. So cloud basically means the internet. Okay, so they will put their systems on a cloud-based system, and then people can access this stuff anywhere at any time. So for example, you can think of either Google Docs as we've got here, or Microsoft have an example of that. And if you're able to access this stuff from home, then why not work from home? It makes it easier in terms of access and productivity, and it just could potentially it boosts a lot of things, such as you don't have to travel. So there's a lot of good stuff there potentially. I haven't filled this out quite as well as the other one. Access to educational resources such as this one, but also, for example, a college that I'm currently working at have a Moodle VLE, virtual learning environment, but there's lots of other stuff such as Udemy or lynda.com. Lots of stuff out there that you can access educational resources from, whereas in the past you might have just had a library, and that might be the only thing that you had access to get the educational resources from. You've got improved security methods, so for example eye retina recognition or fingerprints. All of this stuff wasn't available in the past. You would have maybe had a key but these days you have all of that different stuff available to you. And finally you have multiplayer gaming, which means that in the past you would meet up with people and you would do whatever you wanted to do, so potentially you could go down the pub, or you could go watch a film or whatever it is, whereas these days you don't have to leave your living room to potentially meet up and play games with your friends. And gaming isn't always just having a blast with your mates. You could potentially be doing something more constructive, such as working, I guess. That there are a lot of games out there were actually designed for productivity rather than games itself, such as Brain Training. Whether or not that's multiplayer I couldn't tell you because I've never played it, but you get the idea. So yeah, there's lots of different stuff, and I've not covered anywhere near all of them here. Okay, do not think this is a definitive list. Okay, but as I've been rambling on for about 12 minutes now, ultimately, if there is other stuff that you want to talk about, go and find out information, talk about it. Okay, if you find it interesting and it's relevant, talk about it. It's cool. So where do we go next? Now, this may not be relevant, obviously, if you're not one of my students, but if you are, we're looking to create a Blogger account. If you have a Gmail account, this should be, a dead straightforward thing to be able to do, because it comes in with the Gmail package. And we're going to develop a blog post which covers the social impact of IT. Okay, so obviously I've not talked about the Spider Scribe. That's for the lesson. We're going to look at a range of different points, such as the ones that we've covered in here, and we're going to add in there other things such as the impact of IT on workplaces, and then also look at potential threats and negatives about, and there will be negatives about some of the points we've just raised potentially. It's not all amazing, and I think a key thing to be able to do is to take a balanced opinion and be able to see the good and bad things that we have here. But there's a lot of good that we've covered so far, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.